A surprising twist occurs when the millionaire CEO is unknowingly expelled by a manager. Ethan Harrington had it all: the sharp suits, the stunning penthouse, and a glowing reputation as the charming millionaire CEO. At least, that's what everyone thought. The kind of man who turned heads, Ethan was the epitome of success. But behind this polished veneer, a storm was brewing. He didn't know it yet, but in the boardroom decorated with glass and steel, the moment he stepped out of the morning meeting, disheartened by the harsh whispers of executive restructuring, his world began to splinter. A knock on the door led him to a conference room, where whispers of his impending expulsion floated like shocking smoke. "Can you believe it? It's true," the incredulous voices echoed. The words seared through his soul. He was being kicked out, not just of the company, but out of his identity, stripped of everything he once held dear. Confusão torcia em seu estômago. Como isso pôde acontecer? A raiva aumentou ao pensar na traição daqueles que ele considerava família. Ecos de risadas e murmúrios da equipe que ele uma vez guiou soaram como facas. Tremendo, ele saiu do prédio. The glittering metropolis, consumed by an unsettling fog. He was now invisible. A phantom among the living. A new persona emerged. He shed Ethan Harrington like a snakeskin, clad only in a worn jacket and jeans, drifting through the city's shadows. He roamed the back alleys where harsh truths thrived. There, he found workers who shared their burdens, underpaid, overworked, and pleading for more than just anonymous acknowledgement. It shattered his heart. Each tale ripped his fortitude, forcing him to confront his obliviousness to their struggles. But it was a clandestine meeting, shadowy figures mingling in the dark corners of a rundown cafe, that truly unveiled the darkness. Ethan watched, hiding but aware, as Lily's intentions revealed themselves amidst hushed tones. Revenge rooted in secrets, fragments of Ethan's past that he thought forgotten, whispered through his ear. The past echoed with sharp clarity. Heart racing, fear clawing at him, he slipped back into the shadows. In the following days, he navigated a maze of vulnerability, his anger transforming into a desperate need to reclaim his life. But with every calculated move against Lily, he found himself further ensnared in a web of corporate deceit, the stakes rising higher. Alone, at the crossroads of his choices, a question loomed large. Should he confront Lily, expose her to the world, risk everything to fight back? Or should he sink deeper into the depths of this hidden life, allowing the city to swallow him whole? The thrill of the unknown electrified the air around him. Hey, before I continue with this amazing story, I have to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has deleted their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that mighty like that. Helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Standing. At the crossroads, Ethan felt the concrete beneath his feet shift with uncertainty. Each pulse of his heart echoed louder. He could confront Lily, tear open the veil she draped over him and the company, or he could hide deeper in this murky existence, swirling with shadows of the city he had neglected for so long. But just as he was about to decide, the air crackled with an intensity that made his spine tingle. It began with a commotion. Shouting erupted outside, punctuating the weight of his thoughts. He felt drawn toward the chaos. He slipped through the alley, the worn fabric of his jacket brushing past the jagged bricks, and stood near the mouth of the street, peeking around. The corner. What he saw sent chills racing up his arms. A crowd had gathered, shouting and gasping. A figure lay sprawled on the ground, surrounded by onlookers. Panic gripped him. He pushed through the throng, his pulse thrumming louder than the crowd's murmur. And there she was, Lily, her eyes wide, a horrifying mix of shock and rage. Blood seeped from a gash on her forehead, flowing like a crimson river down the side of her face. She was crumpled, surrounded by chaos that didn't seem to be about her. Whispers sliced through the crowd, fragmented words filled with horror and confusion. Did she fall? Did they push her? Ethan's heart began to race as he knelt beside her, cradling her. Head. Lily, can you hear me? His voice trembled as he felt the warmth of her blood on his hands. Tears threatened to spill over. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. Ethan, she whispered, her breath shallow. You have to listen. Her eyes flickered with something. Fear, knowledge. He squeezed her hand, willing her to hold on. Stay with me. Panic surged, threatening to overwhelm him as the crowd gasped at the spectacle. Suddenly, the quiet urgency was shattered by the blaring sirens approaching. But before the paramedics could arrive, Lily's voice broke through the commotion. Ethan, it was never about you. It was. Her words faded, but her gaze flickered sharply as she glanced over his shoulder. Ethan turned, instinctively shielding her, but what he saw made his stomach drop. Nathan, the CFO, stood there, an icy smirk curling his lips, phone raised, recording the chaos. The betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. Nathan, what the hell are you doing? Ethan roared, his voice breaking through the inhaled gasps around them. The smirk deepened into something darker. Just capturing the moment, Eth. You know, the fall of the mighty, he said, voice oozing with satisfaction. An epic tale, don't you think? Ethan felt bile rise in his throat. Suddenly, the chaotic crowd wasn't just a bunch of onlookers anymore. It was a potent mix of thrill and disdain, eager for the downfall of their leader. The world he once owned now hung in a fragile balance around the whispers of betrayal. As sirens wailed closer, Ethan's grip tightened on Lily. Her eyes held a depth of secrets and horror. They're coming for you. All of you, she gasped, a deep, terrible revelation weaving through her words. The echo of her cryptic statement hung in the air, suffocating him. What else was about to unravel? Ethan's world spun, a torrent of questions. The stakes were infinitely higher now. And he stood at the edge of the storm, no clue about what would transpire next. Who was truly in control? And more hauntingly, what had Lily uncovered? Before he could peel the layers away from that terrifying thought, a dark figura stepped forte frente àquele povo, uma face conhecida agora em nuvens. Pequeba, ega. Tudo que pensava tornado por bruto vinha dançar pela funda, levando-o gaspas profundamente a dora para agradecer como ora. E tensão terminou a olho, encontrando-se cada passo com a mais intensa intensa. Incerteza colhida. Ocorreu a presença do Nathan culpido sobre as demas do mato. Sentia pânico gingindo em sua gamba e podia apenas decorar. Incerteza colhida e capaz de pedir para despedida. Processia a bloda sepando da dor de Lily. Ela estava fadando como a luz nos olhos. TikTok, meu amigo. Esse fio acha que tudo isso é sobre sua briga por controle. Isso é maior do que você imagina. O coração do Ethan foi tremendo. Algo enchia por alguma traição profunda. Ele pôs e voltou ali para Lily, tentando decifrar suas expressões fadando. Fome e felicidade. Agora linchava com medo, conhecimento, desesperação. A verdade, Ethan. Não somos os prédios de futebol. A confusão coletiva palpável. O que significa isso? Alguém sussurrou. Ethan sentiu aquilo, curiosidade tornando-se em julgamento. Suddenly, he was overwhelmed. He could feel the air tightening around him, suffocating him. From the corner of his eye, Ethan saw a flash of movement. A figure slipped through the shadows, cloaked in darkness. Tension surged as the crowd parted, revealing a woman. Dramatic and graceful, she walked with purpose. And then, as she stepped into the light, Ethan felt the tremor of shock ripple through him. Emma, he choked out, disbelief choking his voice. This was his ex-wife. The reason he had thrown himself into work, the reason he had lost himself in the grind. The question burned in his mind. Why was she here? Surprise, Ethan, she said, an unsettling smile stretching on her lips. You thought you could forget me? Não atachasse. His súbito se espantou. Que você está fazendo aqui? O que você quer? A chuveira desapareceu, deixando só intento frio. Não mais games. Está entendendo que essa coisa você não sabe nem pouco que entende. Seu olhar flicou para Nathan, desembarcando com Nathan. Realmente aqui há o seu pai, tendo pai senhor. Você está preparado para ser pai desses caras? Deus, como assim? Que é isso? Ethan pensa. Baita certeza. Amigo de sua avó. Será que consegue encorpar com esse cara? Ethan, pois a seu filho foi decididamente pele que nada bastas pela se basta. Mas antes disso, Emma pudesse responder. O corpo de Lily torcou, os seus olhos abrindo alarme. Ethan, não são o que você pensa. Sangue misturado com fala. Emma Bárbara, fiz medo, da comoção adocando. Their faces twisted in shock and intrigue. Suddenly, Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him as truths began to unravel before his eyes. Ethan, listen, Lily cried as sirens wailed closer. But it was Emma who took the next step, breaking through. Let it play out, she urged, urgency slicing through her tone. Let them come. You'll see what happens next. The clarity of her words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. Who was they? What game was being played? His heart pounded, questioning everything he had known. As Lily's eyes fluttered, Ethan's world began to tremble. Questions surged, spinning around in his mind, engulfing him. This was all a game, but now he was losing control. He stood at the edge where shadows danced with light, uncertainty gnawing at him. The stakes had shifted. What lay ahead? As the sirens drew closer, the truth loomed, dark and foreboding. Would he be ready for what was to come? Who could he trust when everything began to unravel? And just like that, he felt the ground beneath his feet teetered towards the precipice of chaos. Ethan stood at the edge of chaos, heart pounding. The sirens shrieked closer, cutting through the panic like a knife. Lily's breath grew fainter. Each gasped a frágil whisper, while Emma's ice demina sentia friaro ao redor deles. O que quer dizer que? A voz dele tremeu máscara, pedido fundo no murmural. O voz dele broke through the din. A urgência ignicia uma flica de esperança. Mas antes de mais palavras saírem, uma comoção surgiu pela galera. Uma onda de incerteza. Den-se passaram como a mar, desimpedindo dois homens azadugas, carregados de peso, sentimentos de culpa, dedos capotes contradas. O chauto ecoou, mas foi, para ele, o contrário, a onda de indecência, lavando ele sobre eles. All eyes glued to the unfolding tableau. Then, in a split second, everything shattered. A loud crack skated through the air, a gunshot. The sound ripped through the tension, silencing the chaos. A gasp tore through the crowd. Ethan's breath caught. His world stilled, a dark shadow circling around them. He turned sharply. In a heartbeat, he caught a glimpse of Nathan, phone in hand, his icy smirk morphing into shock and horror. The second man fell to the ground, the gun slipping from his hand. his eyes wide and unseeing. Time slowed. Lily's face had gone pale, eyes darting. "No, no," she whispered, realization dawning too late. "Ethan, they're here for you." Ethan felt the earth drop out from under him. What sort of game was this? Who were these men? "What the hell is going on?" he shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. Emma, without a hint of emotion, stepped back, her gaze fixed on the chaos. "There are forces at play you can't understand," she said, calm as a storm brewed around them. But in her voice, Ethan sensed something more than cold intent. Fear. Sirens erupted, growing louder, drowning out the murmurs and gasps. The disarray of the crowd morphed into panic, people shoving to escape or rushing to safety. "Move! Get out!" someone yelled, but no one moved. Through the fray, a glint caught Ethan's eye. He turned back. Another figure emerged, cloaked in the chaos. A familiar figure that caused his heart to freeze. "Not again," he mumbled. It was Sarah, his estranged sister, a shadow from his past he had desperately tried to forget. Her eyes were wide, filled with an emotion he couldn't. "Boink. Why are you here?" His voice was a hoarse whisper, grounded by shock. Memories of their fallout crashed through him. Hurt, betrayal, loss. "I came to warn you," she shouted above the growing noise, stepping closer. "You're not safe. None of us are." Every word hung heavy in the air, dripping with urgency. But before he could absorb the enormity of it all, the crowd surged forward, instinctively fracturing. "Run!" Ethan yelled, shouting back to Lily, who was slowly rising, shaken. "Get to safety." She shook her head, panic etched on her face. "I can't leave you," but the words barely registered. His focus shifted back to Sarah, her face etched with fear. "What do you mean we're not safe?" The world crashed, his reality morphing. The pieces began to fall into place. Lily was grasping for clarity, and behind her lay another dark figure, hidden in the shadows of the alley. A person never seen, a puppet master pulling strings. The last thing he remembered was the sound of sirens screaming, as hands grabbed at his arms, dragging him back from the edge. Nathan's voice cut through the chaos. "Let it play out." Lily's eyes met his, a storm of emotions crashing. Time spiraled, and the shadows enveloped them. Would they survive the storm, or was this the end of everything? His heart raced, uncertainty clawing at him as dimness faded into the night. The truth lurked, waiting to tear apart every belief he held. Would he ever escape the grip of betrayal? The sirens drowned out his thoughts, and as everything spiraled into darkness, he knew the real game had only just begun. Ethan stood there, heart racing, as chaos spiraled around him. Sirens wailed, but everything else felt muffled, like being underwater. Lily's blood was warm against his hands, pooling on the cold ground. Emma's cold presence pressed on him, leaving him breathless. The crowd buzzed with awe and fear, but the only voice he heard was Lily's, her fading words echoing in his mind. "Stay with me," he urged, but her eyes were glazing over, slipping away from him. He felt the grip of panic tighten, squeezing his chest. What was happening? He needed answers. He needed to act, but terror anchored him to the spot. Before he could process, the figure of Nathan moved, his face twisted in some sick satisfaction as he panned his phone back towards Ethan. "This is gold," he shouted, voice dripping with malice. "Shut up," Ethan roared, eyes narrowing. But Nathan just laughed, the sound echoing hollowly through the chaos. "Let it finish," Emma said sharply, her voice cutting through the air. "You don't know what's coming." Ethan turned to her, confusion swirling. "What do you mean?" He'd never seen her so calm amid such terror. "What's happening?" The ground felt like it was shifting under him. Then, without warning, everything erupted. A deafening
Crack, isto era. O sharp som de outro chute rolou uma segunda balatuce.
não estava bem de onde Ethan caiu. As pessoas gritavam, escapando-se como lafres na fenda. E a cena mudou a sugria. Os olhos de Lily bem apontavam. O como espírito que se mutem. Cheirem o xingapúculo sendo quase terra. Mas ele não podia mais direir o pé. Neta, se morre, a segunda pessoa rolou e fez a mesma coisa. Campli com a pedra, olhos vituvados, boca fria como brilhar. Aqui o que é que está a acontecer? Ethan chocava a voz, escaneando a contenção. O público ver que se tendia, angustiando-se, como vultões. E que indo a parte a carcas, den ele viu, alto do cornete e seu olhar, Sarah empurrou, com desespero. "Olha, Ethan!" Gritou. "Saia!" Ela gritou, mas a voz dela era assim tomada. Subiu alguém atrás até um ponto como deveria. Ethan ficou surpreso, visão paralisada, enquanto o novo convidado levanta a grava, focado com ele. O coração dispara, empurrado, instinto direto dele. Mas antes de chegar a ela, o companheiro abaixou a arma e terminou com pena no cérebro, uma cruel focada no ar. O homem caiu. The gun slipping from his fingers, clattering against the ground. The crowd recoiled, a collective gasp. A moment of silence before the chaos resumed. Screams echoing in the night. Lily trembled beneath him, eyes wide, fear etched across her features. "You don't know who's really in charge," she gasped, but he couldn't process her words. What does that mean? He wanted answers, but the world was unraveling before him. "Tell him," Emma said, urgency seeping from her voice. What the moment shattered like glass, a darkness swallowing him as Lily's eyes flickered. With one last weak gasp, she whispered, It's not just the company. Ethan, it's..." Then her gaze turned vacant, slipping away. Ethan felt his heart stop. The faces around him blended into a haunting blur. Nathan's mockery, Emma's steely gaze, Sarah's worry, the fallen men. Who were they? What was this twisted game? Suddenly, time felt frozen. The police sirens grew louder, but all he could hear was the silence that filled the space where Lily used to be. In that instant of loss, a deeper secret unraveled, pulsing with sinister energy. A chill raced down his spine. The ground beneath his feet felt like quicksand, dragging him into shadows. Ethan. Emma tornou para ele, olhos veio caídos. O que você pensava que era vida não era nada? E por fim, antes de ela poder finalizar, outro figuro, homem que nunca mais viria. Ele era o seu pai. A gosto do seu pasta, estava com o caos. Ethan chamou, olhar de terror adentrado no teto. Precisamos falar, antes que passe tarde. O Ethan caiu em choque. Mais uma tomba de traição. O que poderia ter feito com isso? Errou e mais rápido. Tudo o que ele pensava começou a ser gosto. E para mim, a vida tem que esse acabo. He realized it was apenas a pawn em jogo muito maior do que ele poderia imaginar. A revelação chocante ainda fazia lembrar, ao pé de meta, encoraçado desesperado, quem poderia confiar quando confiar era a primeira casualidade. E o que exatamente teve? He just opened the door to... Ethan stood there, his heart thrumming against his chest like a caged bird. His father, a figure from his past, stepped forward, concern etched on his face, but all Ethan could feel was the tremor of fear and confusion. "What do you mean, Dad? We need to talk about what?" But before he could catch an answer, the crowd erupted into manic chaos. People screamed, pushing against each other, panic tightening the air like a noose. Ethan, listen, Sarah shouted as she fought against the throng of bodies. We don't have much time. It's all connected. His father's eyes darted between the unfolding scene and him, filled with urgency. The sirens were deafening now, piercing.
Through the gathered crowd. You don't understand, ele disse.
Mas uma outra cracada encheu o ar. Sentiu como o tempo parou. Outro gunshot. O pânico ficou reclinado e ele viu uma sombra lurgando uma gaia negra. Desça! Alguém outro como mordida. Ele se sobrepôs enternecido por um gunshot, mas a ferida arma fim, o que tirou de novo. A piercing, sickening selma recuou nos ouvidos. O público chorar com... Não foi ao som do chute. Não, foi à vista certa. A bala não bateu Ethan nem Lily. Ela pergoou em sua direção. This triggered an overwhelming shift. The woman who was still standing slumped to the ground, blood pooling rapidly around her, staining the pavement a dark crimson. "Oh my God!" Ethan murmured, disbelief washing over him. But as he looked closer, recognition settled in. It was Emma. "Emma!" he screamed, adrenaline surging through him. "Why?" Fear danced in her eyes as she lay still. He felt raw panic clawing at him, as he realized how much was falling apart around him. He had trusted her. Did she know what was happening? Then the air shifted again. Emma's lips parted slightly, as if about to share a truth that had remained locked away. Slowly, her gaze flickered to Nathan, who was now wide-eyed. All
arrogance stripped away.
This was never just about the company, Emma gasped, her breaths becoming shallow. You were all part of a bigger game. Ethan's heart sank. He turned to his father, searching for answers. What is she talking about? Nathan regained his composure, faux bravado bubbling back to the surface. Someone's been playing puppeteer here. But you were never meant to find out. This is your fault. His words sliced through the chaos, igniting confusion.
What do you mean? What's happening?
Ethan's voice cracked, desperation overwhelming him. Then Emma's voice sliced through the crowd's murmurs. You have to understand, Ethan. This was set in motion long before you stepped in as CEO. Panic filled the crowd as they processed her. Words. Whispers escalating into fevered speculations. What does that mean? How are we connected? The world spun as realization hit him like a blow. This wasn't merely about the betrayal of a colleague. This was far deeper. Emma's hand wavered, blood staining the asphalt, weakening her grip on life itself. Trust no one, especially Nathan. Before she could finish, her eyes rolled back, voice fading like a whisper into the void. No, Emma! Ethan screamed. But it felt like shouting into a void, a hollow echo of unanswered questions. Time ground to a halt as the crowd buzzed around him, a mix of morbid fascination and fear. Faces flickered between shock and horror, and the chaos grew strangled in uncertainty. Then, something shifted in the distance. Lights flashed, but it wasn't the police cars. Get them, someone shouted from the back of the crowd, injecting chaos once more. Ethan's breath quickened. Who were them? He turned back to Nathan, only to find him retreating into the shadows. He was slipping away, the game shifting once more. Where was the end of this twisted nightmare? Just when hope seemed lost, Ethan felt a tug at his arm. Sarah, we need to go, now. But as they turned to flee, he caught sight of the forefront of the crowd and froze. Emerging from the shadows was another familiar figure, one he thought he'd never see again. His mother. Mom? His voice trembled, caught between disbelief.
E a flicker de apoio.
As pesadas haviam alcançado para chegar ao pontos incríveis, e entre perguntas e mais, ainda sem respostas. Até lições foi decidida, e o mundo de Ethan Harrington nunca mais havia sido claro. A perfeição da vida estava por incompleta. Would they all survive the storm that was brewing? Ethan's heart raced as he stood frozen, staring at his mother. The swirling chaos around him faded into a low hum, her presence igniting a forgotten warmth. What are you doing here? Estámero, o peso do passado agraciando sobre ele como gota régio. Não temos muito tempo, Ethan. Ela sorriu, encondindo carros com pneus meserrepenhos lagos, cacofonia de verde e azul. Mas antes disso, ela puxou para seu braço, os olhos mais ágeis em torno, destruindo completamente da conta, parou parar. O pânico respirava e ripolava sobre a multidão. Ethan tomou passo para sua mãe. Mãe, o que aconteceu? Por que estás aqui? Ela prendeu os lábios, hesitação ficando a cada vez. Você não sabe a verdade, Ethan, mas está em perigo. We all are. How could you say that? We've been through so much. This can't be happening. His rage burned alongside the fear. So many questions rattled inside him, but at that moment, Emma's body lay motionless, lifeless and cold on the pavement, a stark reminder of the high stakes. Please, he whispered, guilt clawing at him for not having done more. Just then, a deafening roar erupted, shattering the air around them. A car barreled down the street, a black SUV driving straight at them. Gasps permeated the crowd, faces plastered with shock. Worry twisted in Ethan's chest. Was this another assault? Get down, someone screamed, and instincts kicked in. Everyone dodged for cover, but the SUV swerved suddenly, tires screeching. Then came a sharp crunch as it collided with another vehicle. Glass shattered like rain, and a collective gasp echoed through the crowd. Ethan's heart raced as chaos erupted again. He turned to check on Lily, but his eyes darted back to the wreck. Amidst crushed metal and chaos stood a man, tall and cloaked, stepping out slowly from the debris. Fear gripped Ethan. It was Nathan, somehow unaffected, calm as chaos reigned around him. What the hell? Ethan breathed, feeling his stomach drop. Time for the real game, Ethan. You think you were ever off the board? Nathan called out, voice loud and mocking. It was always about power. Who controlled who? You've played your part well. Nathan raised a hand high, and from the depths of his coat, Ethan saw it. A gleaming flash, a gun aimed straight at him. No, Sarah shouted, moving to intervene. But Nathan's finger twitched. You'll learn that betrayal runs deep in your veins, just like your mother. The secrets go back further than you know. Ethan's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Before Nathan could answer, another figure rushed forward, a woman, fierce and fiery, launching herself at Nathan, knocking the gun away just as it blasted. It was Emma's sister, Jenna, someone Ethan barely knew, a supposed ally. The gunfire sent shockwaves through the crowd, and another gun went off, hitting an innocent bystander. The air filled with screams. Jenna, Ethan yelled, scrambling forward to help, but she was already grappling with Nathan, the chaos surrounding them intensifying. In that moment of distraction, his mother turned to him, eyes filled with regret and fierce determination. Ethan, I need you to know something important. It's not just a family feud. There's something else. The prophecy about control. You've been part of it. The weight of her words crashed down on him. Prophecy? Control? What are you talking about? Your father and I, we had to protect you from the truth. We had to keep you away, but you're in the center of it all, she whispered urgently. Suddenly, the crowd gasped in unison. Their shocked expressions turned toward the far end of the street, where shadows merged with the light. A figure emerged from the darkness, high heels clicking softly on the pavement. Ethan felt his breath hitch as she stepped into the light. Cassandra? It couldn't be possible. She was supposed to be gone, exiled long ago. But there she stood, the rival he thought he'd vanquished, her eyes glinting with malice. "Did you really think it would end like this?" Her voice dripped with disdain. "A game, Ethan. I never let you out of my sight." The bombshell dropped like a weight, crushing everything Ethan thought he knew. "How was she involved?" O Crow murmurou. O pino desembou a ganga na pele. Ele receoso, agarrando-se na pilha. Verá como afinal playará. As tensão tecava na ar. Ethan sentia como se estivesse no precipício, a terra comblando beleza, e os termos já tinham se começado a superar. A terra, na obscuridade. A conforto, o energia dele com todo mundo. A igreja velha, e tenso, e tudo acontece, vai ser batido. Whispers balançando quebradas no muro, infuriando. Todo mundo se levantou o braço para ver o próximo. E ele deu o pé, fé e tenso. Ela se inclinou à bicheira. E foi tremenda de própria coragem empurrando o pata.
Me from the board. You've got a long way to go, Ethan.
Her confidence instilled uneasy murmurs among the onlookers. The scene was chaos. The police sirens wailed in the distance, blending with the surge of panic rising in Ethan's throat. With Lily gone, everything felt fragile, teetering on the edge. His father's eyes bore into Ethan, filled with worry but also with something darker, something unspoken. Then, out of nowhere, a loud bang erupted, shattering the chaotic air. Someone shrieked, a voice cutting through the madness. "Watch out!" Time seemed to freeze. The crowd parted in an instant, revealing a figure stepping forward from the shadows. The silhouette was familiar, causing Ethan's breath to hitch. It was his mother. Clantiaga, recomoporré de paura e medo. "Mãe, que você faz?" Ele chorou, em desespero levando para ele. "Ethan, é o homem que escuta a tua voz, carregando o medo do seu seio." Sentia perturbação. Confusão gripou em dele. Antes dela poder responder, Ganfogo foi blastado pelo ar agora. Esse foi um poder, fracassou com a arma piontada. A gaspe repelou pela calha, quando caiu, sangue bulando no fundo. Ethan teve pulso. A face da mãe dele terrível, abofando ao aristar. Bofando queria acabar tudo. Que começo.
What the hell is happening? Fear ate away at him, tightening like a vice. The sharp tang of betrayal hung heavy. Jenna rushed to Nathan's side, cradling his head. "What have you done?" she screamed, tears mingling with the blood on his shirt. Ethan felt the ground shifting beneath him. Was Nathan really the threat? Or was this all a part of something far bigger? He searched the crowd for answers, faces swimming around him. Suas expressões misturando horror e descrença. The sirens grew closer, the real world crashing in like waves against a cliff. "Tell me the truth," Ethan demanded, heart pounding furiously. Then, Cassandra broke the tension, like glass shattering against concrete. "You know it's not just about him, right? This all circles back to you." Her voice rang with conviction. "You're the key in every trap. You were the one they always wanted." Suddenly, Ethan felt dizzy. Was it true? Emotions surged through him. Anger, fear, guilt. How deep did the rabbit hole go? Suddenly, a realization struck him like a thunderbolt. If Nathan was a pawn, then who had truly been pulling the strings the entire time? Just as he was processing, a blinding light shot through the night. Something explosive, shaking the world around them. An enormous blast erupted behind him, sending debris flying in every direction. "Get down!" someone yelled, but it was too late. Before he could react, everything erupted into chaos. Screams filled the air as the crowd scattered and Ethan felt a debris shower rain down. He turned and saw his mother crumple to the ground, clutching her chest. "Mom!" he yelled,
instinctively rushing to her. But the chaos had erupted violently. Amid the smoke and pandemonium, the reality of his fractured family loomed larger than life. The air thick with dust and confusion. Panic clawed at Ethan's throat. He turned toward Cassandra, rage igniting his resolve. "What have you done?" But in that instant, her expression morphed, fear melding with victory. "You don't understand. It all begins and ends with you." Ethan's heart sank. Questions flooded his mind. What had he uncovered? What hidden truths had he unwittingly fueled? In that moment of chaos, where
Betrayal, dançando com decepção, as trevas da sua vida travaram completamente. Realizou que estava no olho da tempestade, e pensamento se prostrou nele. Veja sempre o que nada fez sentido, o que o sonho parecia tentado de comer com ele. A última vez, a vida se consolidava, e o frente da sua realidade revisou completamente. E em todo o instinto sentiu para achar a verdade antes do enterrar. Ethan sentiu o mundo trêmulo ao redor dele, o caos se recortando para a bola de medo e inquietação. Sua voz da mãe, caias de decepção passada, encolhida, desvendando-se, disse que parava mesmo, à borda do assédio. Você crê que essa estrada pensar mera sobrevivência? É sobre entender o jogo. Cada palavra soava como um simpono, cindendo no pânico no ar. Ethan segurava a cabeça, lutando pensamentos. 50 parar. Qual jogo? O que você quer? O que é seguir?
Talking about? A desperate need for clarity surged through him, but confusion tangled everything up inside. Suddenly, a deafening explosion echoed, reverberating through the street. Ethan flinched, instinctively turning toward the sound. A plume of smoke erupted from a nearby building as people screamed and began to scatter. The entire scene splintered into chaos. Smoke billowed, blurring the world around him. "Run!" Sarah cried, grabbing his arm. Olhem ele para o êxito, o caos. Pânico surgia, o ar chocado com o púlvero e o peso. Eles travaram através da multidão. Mas aí do nada, tudo mudou. Uma figura proveniente do fumo, barreada de sombras, era a silhueta que deixava frio no seu olho.
his spine. As the smoke parted, Ethan gasped, recognition striking him like lightning. "Jack," he breathed, his heart racing. Jack, the brother he never knew he had. The brother that existed in the shadows of his mother's secrets. The one who had been hidden away for so long. "Ethan!" Jack yelled, voice sharp and fervent, piercing through the haze. "You need to listen. It's all connected. I'm here to pull you out of this mess." What? Ethan struggled to grasp this shocking turn of events. But fear clouded his thoughts. How? Why? Every question felt urgent, desperate for answers. Yet Jack's gaze held something darker. Algo filled with a sense of violent urgency. No meio do encontro chocado, outra rodada
Of gunfire rang out,
bullets ricocheting off metal as the crowd erupted into chaos once more. "Duck!" Jack barked, shoving them behind an overturned car just as a nearby window shattered. Adrenaline surged as they huddled together, heat from the nearby flames licking at their skin. "Jack, why now? What do you want with me?" Ethan gasped, adrenaline coursing through him as he tried to process everything. The danger felt real now, an unbearable weight pressing down on him. "You're the key to everything," Jack whispered fiercely, desperation clear in his eyes. "It all started back when we were kids. Mom didn't want you involved." Just then, the realization crashed into Ethan like a freight train. The truth he never fathomed.
You mean to say I'm not just a victim? No, Jack snapped, voice laced with pain. You have to understand this, Ethan. They wanted you all along. But before he could finish, the ground shook violently, as if the universe itself were protesting. The very air shifted, charged with electricity and fear. A blinding flash illuminated the chaos. The roof above groaned ominously, then collapsed, sending debris tumbling down. Time slowed as Ethan's heart dropped into his stomach. He caught a glimpse of his mother's horrified expression, Cassandra's smirk morphing into sheer shock, and Jack's panicked face searching for a way out. And just then, before he could scream or shield himself, the falling structure came crashing down.
Darkness envelopou ele, peso cruciante à beira ali.
Silêncio encheu o espaço.
Darkness, dor de abacentado. E ele pensava em tudo o que havia perdido, Lily, Emma e agora Jack. Quando o mundo perdia ele, sentiu alguma coisa sem compreensão. O que acabou de acontecer? Qual foi o mais ameaça dormida? O tempo sentido suspenso, através de incerteza, and the haunting question resonated in his mind. Would he ever escape the storm he had been thrust into? Ethan gasped as darkness envelopou ele. But then, the weight above shifted. A beam creaked and fell away, and he squinted against the sudden
light filtering through the dust. He was alive, heart racing. He pushed himself free from the wreckage, shoving debris aside. Pain shot up his legs, but fear propelled him. "Mom! Jack!" he yelled, voice cracked and desperate. "Over here!" His mother's voice pierced through the haze. She was struggling to move, but alive. Relief surged through him. He crawled over, pulling her into his arms, feeling her warmth. "We have to get out of here," Ethan urged, his heart pounding. Jack had desaparecido nas sombras, e o pânico o agarrou. Justamente então, ele avistou Jack, emergindo da penumbra, o rosto retorcido de dor. "Eu encontrei uma saída", ele gritou, urgência tingindo sua voz. "Por aqui." Eles stumbled towards him, a gruesome scene enveloping them. Sirens wailed in the distance, echoing their own panic. People rushed toward them, faces pale and shock etched deep into their features. Cassandra, sprawled on the ground, was not moving. It felt surreal. The woman who had played a central role in their turmoil lay defeated. Ethan didn't know whether to feel relieved or haunted. Suddenly, the world shifted again as shooting began anew, bullets grazing near them. His heart dropped into his stomach. "Run!" he shouted, pulling his mother with him. Jack urged them forward. They darted through the smoky haze, limbs pumping with adrenaline. They stumbled past fallen pieces of buildings. The air was thick with dust and ash, making. It heard steps to breathe, but they pressed on. No one was safe. Ethan's mind reeled back to Lily. What had become of her? The thought gripped him with fear, tightening like a noose. Guilt washed over him when he thought of leading without answers. Why did this happen? Ethan gasped, wheezing as they ran. Even with the fire raging beside him, his mind burned with questions that demanded answers. Jack exchanged glances. "It's a bigger game than you realized, Ethan. You've been at the center of it all along." "What do you mean?" Panic threaded through Ethan's voice, but before Jack could reply, a loud explosion echoed behind them, followed by another wave of heat that felt like a slap on the back of their necks. "Go," his mother urged. They pushed through the crowd, fleeing toward the glaring headlights of police cars. Officers shouted commands, ordering people to clear the area, but Ethan felt a pull back toward the chaos they had escaped. "Lily," he shouted, but his voice got lost in the chaos. The sirens screamed louder, the world felt on fire, both around him and within. In that moment, the truth skidded to a halt, and Ethan faced a storm of emotion. He realized that he had lost so much in his pursuit of power and prestige. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, revealing the aftermath of the destruction. But even as the dust settled, a flicker of hope ignited inside dele. E três disseram, juntos. Jack, vamos sair daqui, ele ordenou, a voz mais estabilizada. Jack e a mãe ineram. Determinação ignaceram adentro. Finalmente estenderam para a luz, deixando sombras atrás, incertezas e tragédias também. Sempre que apenas o ponto rendia boa abaixo, a vida continuava. Isso não era o fim. O que levava pelo caminho não sabiam prever. Mas a unidade da família o sustenta. Ethan podia agora pispirar mais calmo. Mas era ele livre mesmo? O dia se estendia por diante, um canvas esperando um novo sopro de tinta, renovando a sua esperança, mas também chamando a vigilância. Quais mais repites pela profundeza da incerteza no futuro encadeia sua caminhada? Into da fábrica do seu life, ele sabia uma coisa clara. Ele lutaria por essa família e a verdade, qualquer que fosse. Então, assista a nossa próxima live. E agora, você precisa se inscrever no canal para que não perca todas as histórias exclusivas que vêm por aí. Aperte o botão de like para alimentar o algoritmo e fazer a sua voz ouvida. Levante as impressões, conversemos em vídeo audável e não vá uma segunda mais para compartilhar esse vídeo com ao menos 5 amigos que precisam saber daquela chocante conclusão. Somente os verdadeiros fãs entendem da importância de apoiar o canal. Envolva-se agora.